She moved through the silent lobby like she always did, unnoticed, uncelebrated, forgotten by the world. But that morning was different. As soft music played in her ears, she let herself dance, just for a moment, just to feel alive again. She had no idea that, high above, behind the shadows of tinted glass, someone powerful was watching, not with judgment, but with something far more dangerous: attention. What began as a private moment of escape would soon trigger a chain of events that would change her life forever. Because sometimes, being seen is the beginning of everything. Before the sun rose over Manhattan, the city still wearing its blanket of silence, Rosa slipped out of her tiny apartment in the Bronx. Her alarm had gone off at 4:30 a.m., but she'd already been awake. Sleep came in small patches these days, ever since her husband's illness worsened and bills kept piling up. Still, Rosa moved with the quiet grace of someone who had lived this rhythm for years. She laced up her old sneakers, the soles worn, thin from long shifts, tucked her hair beneath her knit cap, and grabbed her battered headphones from the kitchen table. The subway ride was quiet, filled with other ghosts of the early morning janitors, security guards, kitchen staff, the invisible backbone of the city. As she emerged into the chilled air outside Halverson Tech, the towering glass building loomed above her like a monument to another world. She swiped in, nodded at the sleepy security guard, and made her way to the supply closet where her cart and mop waited, like old friends. It was still dark inside the lobby, the city lights casting reflections across the marble floors. Rosa slipped on her headphones, adjusted the volume, and hit play. The familiar notes of her favorite salsa song filled her ears, a melody from her childhood in San Juan, a song her father used to hum as he fixed the roof during storm season. She closed her eyes for a moment, let the rhythm take hold. Her body responded before her mind could catch up. She twirled once, then caught herself laughing quietly. She glanced around. The lobby was empty. As always, just her, the mop, and the music. She let herself move a little more freely. The mop glided across the floor in sync with her steps, her hips swaying gently, arms moving as though she were back at her cousin's wedding instead of a cold corporate tower. Her face softened, eyes closed again. For 2 minutes, Rosa wasn't cleaning, she was dancing. Not for an audience, not for applause, just for herself, just to feel something light inside her again. What she didn't know was that on the mezzanine above, a man in a dark coat stood silently, coffee in hand, watching every step. Nathan Halverson hadn't planned to come in early. The CEO of Halverson Tech hadn't been in the office much at all these past few weeks. Ever since his mother passed away, he'd found it hard to sit behind that grand desk, to pretend that quarterly reports and board meetings mattered when his heart still ached in silence. But something about this morning, the insomnia, quiet ache in his chest, made him put on a coat and drive into the city before dawn. He entered through the private elevator, the one that opened directly onto the mezzanine overlooking the main lobby. As the door slid open, he stopped in his tracks. Down below, framed by the golden hue of the city lights reflecting off the marble, a woman was dancing. She wasn't young, and she wasn't dressed for performance. Her clothes were plain, her shoes scuffed. She moved with a mop in hand, not a spotlight, but her face, it glowed. There was a joy, a quiet fire in the way she turned and swayed. She wasn't dancing to impress. She wasn't performing. She was simply free. For a moment, Nathan forgot where he was, forgot the weight in his chest, forgot everything but the pure, unfiltered emotion radiating from this stranger who likely didn't even know his name. He watched as she twirled gently, then paused and smiled to herself, as if remembering something from long ago. She took a deep breath and went back to mopping, still moving with rhythm, like her body had stored this music deep within her bones. Nathan didn't move. He didn't dare interrupt. He realized something strange was happening, not with her, but with him. For the first time in weeks, the pain of loss was interrupted by wonder. There was something profoundly human in this simple moment. A woman dancing in the dark, alone, unseen, or so she thought. Nathan stepped back quietly, heart thudding. He didn't want her to stop. He didn't want to be the reason that quiet joy faded. He'd seen thousands of presentations, pitches, and performances in his life, but none had struck him like this. A cleaning lady dancing, not knowing the CEO was watching, and somehow, in that moment, she had reminded him what being alive really meant. Later that day, Rosa was finishing up her rounds when her supervisor approached her with an unusual tone. "The CEO wants to see you," he said, not unkindly, but clearly surprised himself. Rosa froze, mop still in hand. "Me?" she asked. thinking surely there had been some mistake. She had never been summoned upstairs, never even stepped foot on the executive floor in all her 7 years at Halverson Tech. Her heart began to race. Had she broken a rule? Had someone seen her dancing and thought it was unprofessional? With hands slightly trembling, Rosa rode the elevator up, adjusting her uniform and straightening her posture. The doors opened into a bright, polished space that felt like another world. She was greeted at the door by the CEO himself, Nathan Halverson. He wasn't what she expected. No suit, no tie, just a man in a sweater and slacks, with kind eyes that looked tired, yet thoughtful. "Thank you for coming, Rosa," he said, gesturing toward a seat. She sat cautiously, unsure of what was happening. Then he smiled gently and said, "I saw you this morning, in the lobby." Her breath caught. Her mind raced to form an apology, but he raised a hand gently before she could speak. "I saw you dancing." Rosa's cheeks flushed. She looked down, embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Just helps me stay awake. The music, it makes the work lighter. For a few minutes, I forget everything." Nathan leaned forward. "What do you need to forget?" "Rosa," she hesitated. "My husband is sick. Cancer. Stage 3. My son dropped out of college to help me care for him. It's been hard. The music helps. Even if just for a moment, I can breathe." There was silence for a few seconds, a kind of stillness that held weight. Then Nathan spoke again, softly, but clearly. "No one should have to dance through pain alone. Rosa, what if I told you we can help you breathe a little longer?" She blinked, unsure what he meant, but in his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in a long time: sincerity. And for the first time in weeks, her shoulders lowered slightly. Not from exhaustion, but from the quiet relief that maybe, just maybe, someone finally saw her. Next Monday morning, Rosa arrived at work as usual. Same subway, same worn shoes, same routine. But at the front desk, the security guard handed her an envelope with her name typed neatly on it. Confused, she opened it and began to read. Her hands trembled as her eyes moved over the words. Inside was more than just a letter. It was a life gift. First, a full scholarship for her son, reinstating his college admission with all fees and living expenses covered. Rosa gasped softly, already feeling tears rise. Next, private health insurance arranged through the company's corporate plan for her husband, effective immediately. No wait lists, no deductibles they couldn't afford. Her husband could begin treatment this week, and at the bottom, a final line: "Welcome to your new position, Wellness Ambassador, Halverson Tech." Rosa blinked, trying to understand. Attached was a schedule. Every Friday, she would lead movement and music sessions in the lobby before work hours. 30 minutes of light dancing, stretching, and joy. The same joy that she once shared silently when she thought no one was watching. That it wasn't just about the money or the job title. It was about being seen, being valued not as just a cleaner, but as a person who brought light into a building full of people who often forgot what joy looked like. Word spread quickly. Employees who had passed Rosa in hallways without a glance now smiled and said hello. Her supervisor called to thank her. "Whatever you did up there," he chuckled, "you've started something none of us expected." Nathan didn't make a public speech. He simply sent one company-wide email that morning. It read, "Sometimes the brightest light doesn't come from the boardroom. It comes from someone who brings warmth, even while mopping a cold floor." Rosa folded the letter against her chest, holding it like a secret prayer. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was just surviving. She felt honored, lifted, and deeply grateful. Friday morning came, and with it, something new stirred in the heart of Halverson Tech. The lobby, once cold and sterile in the early hours, was filled with soft Latin rhythms playing gently over the speakers. Rosa stood in the center, still in her comfortable sneakers, her red scarf tied in her hair. Around her, a small group of employees, young interns, older managers, even a few executives, stretched awkwardly. Some smiling, others uncertain. And then, Rosa began to move. She didn't teach like a fitness instructor, she led like a friend. With each sway, each clap, each light-hearted turn, more people joined in. Laughter echoed off the marble walls, the stiffness of corporate life slowly giving way to something more human. Even Nathan Halverson showed up, quietly standing at the back, rolling his shoulders to the beat, smiling like a man remembering how to breathe. In just 30 minutes, something had shifted. Co-workers who'd barely exchanged nods were now laughing. Together, phones stayed in pockets, eyes looked up, people danced. And at the center of it all was Rosa. No longer invisible, no longer just the woman with the mop. She was the spark. She still cleaned, still swept and mopped with care. But now, when she moved, she wasn't alone. People noticed. They greeted her. Some even joined her impromptu lunch breaks. The woman who once danced in secret now led a quiet revolution of joy. One afternoon, a young developer stopped her by the elevator. "You know," he said, "I used to dread coming in early, but now, Fridays are my favorite. You made this place feel alive." Rosa smiled, the kind of smile that carries both pride and humility. She didn't need applause, she never danced for recognition, but now she understood something deeply: joy, when shared, multiplies. In the very building where she once moved unseen, Rosa had sparked a movement, not of grand gestures, but of simple humanity. And in that rhythm, in that light, an entire company remembered the power of kindness, and the quiet strength of a woman who chose to dance in the dark.